What's up, poker peeps? It's your man, Nicky W, in the house. I can't pull that off. I can't even pull that off in a way that's vaguely anything. It's lovely to talk to you about your poker again. Welcome to this video. We are going to talk about playing the big one. So what I'm going to do in this video is take you through how to play a bigger tournament or cash game than you're used to. I'm going to keep this to tournaments, but most of the stuff I'm going to talk about will generalize to cash. So let me take you through this scenario. You've decided to enter a big tournament or play a big cash game, and maybe you've qualified for that tournament, or maybe it's a special treat. And this can be a huge tournament like the World Series of Poker or a European Poker Tour or a WPT or whatever it is. Or it can just be a big tournament for you. If you're used to playing micro stakes and you decide to buy into the big monthly tournament at your casino. Now the problem is you're suddenly in rarefied air, right? You're suddenly in an event with much bigger entry than you're used to. You're probably going to play against better players than you're used to. And you should, if you're a human, feel more pressure, right? This is out of your comfort zone, whatever that is. So what do you do about that? 6 things today that I think can really help you. And really, if you wanted to take one thing away from it, instead of going through the whole video, just enjoy it and play your best poker is the obvious and easy advice. However, I want to actually take you through some specifics in order to make sure that happens for you and you don't waste the opportunity, because as we've seen in history, I've commentated on a few. Some of the biggest tournaments, or at least some of the big prizes in big tournaments, have been won by people playing way out their comfort zone. Chris Moneymaker's quite a famous one, but there are many, many others. So it could be you, and I want to give you the best chance of that. The first thing to do before you play in this much bigger game is to accept losing. Accept losing. So let's start on a positive, Nick. Get everyone excited about playing a big tournament. Accept losing. This is something that I learned the first time I played the World Series of Poker main event, because I didn't do this. It's very important when you go into any tournament, actually almost any poker game, that you accept that you are that there's the potential for you to lose. And when you go into a tournament, you know that you're going to lose more often than you're going to win. Even if you're a winning tournament player, you're going to lose, and by that I mean not cash and lose your buy-in, maybe 80% of the time. If you're playing a bigger event than you're used to, that's going to be even a higher percentage, because the level of play is going to be a little bit higher than you're used to. So most of the time, you're going to be getting the result you don't want. You're not going to cash. And it's very important to accept that for a couple of reasons. The first is, I don't want you to think, oh, I blew my big opportunity, and be really depressed and have your confidence take a knock if and when you bust out, right? That's a bad outcome, when actually this should be a step forward in your poker and you want to learn as much as possible from it. The second more important thing is, once you've accepted that you can lose and you're playing no limit hold'em and all your chips are in play, then you've actually got a much better chance to do well. If you're going into any poker tournament, and you see people do this at the big events, especially the World Series of Poker, but at all the big events, and you're just trying to survive, you're just trying to hang on, that's just a good way to delay going broke, to go very slowly broke. I'm sure you've had this experience of just playing to survive. That's not great tournament poker. You need to be able to take opportunities when they come, whether that's value betting a good hand or making a bluff or whatever. So before you start playing, accept the outcome, you know, is not completely under your control, and most of the time you're not going to cash, and commit to yourself that you're going to play your best, even if that involves putting all of your chips on the line in the right spot. Easier to say than do, but an important thing to have in your head before you sit down. Right, the second thing is going to be a little bit of preparation, but not too much. So prepare. I think you should give yourself the best chance to succeed. I think you should do a bit of preparation. I don't want you to over-prepare. So again, learning from my mistake is always a good idea, and funny, she had to laugh at me. I didn't play very well on the first day of the first time I played the World Series of Poker main event. I played very conservatively, and I was much more kind of nervous and worried than I would normally be at a poker table, despite the fact I'd played professional level poker for a lot of years. The occasion got to me, and I know that part of the reason was I over-prepared. So the night before, I was, you know, instead of relaxing, I spent the night looking at tournament theory, looking at some tournament hands I played, studying, looking at the event structure, thinking about the event, all of that kind of stuff. Didn't sleep too well. And that's not great preparation, obviously, right? The important thing to remember is you can't transform the level of poker player you are the night before. This is not like kind of doing your homework for an exam. Maybe it is a bit like it, because that's not a good way to do that either, but you really can't just sort of cram lots of poker knowledge in. You are the poker player you are. So your mission when you play a big event for the first time is to turn up being the best version of yourself, if you like. So all of the standard advice would apply. Make sure you get plenty of rest. Make sure you're relaxed, right? Make sure you're feeling full of energy. Do whatever it takes to do that. Eat well, exercise a little bit, but not too much. Like I said, sleep, because you're going to be playing a long day if you're playing a long tournament event. So do all of that good stuff. And then in terms of actually preparing for the event, do look at the structure sheet of the event. Get yourself familiar with where the big jumps are in the blinds, how long you get to play without an ante, when the ante comes in, that sort of thing, just to prepare yourself for the day you're going to have. Make sure you know how long the day is so you can time your eating and your energy and stuff like that. Ask the tournament director how many levels you're playing that day and so on. Then the other thing, which is really important advice, I think, if you're playing a big event and it's in a card room or a venue you haven't played before, get comfortable in that venue. One of the most valuable things you can do is to play in that venue the day before or a couple of days before. Most festivals have side events. I'd play a side event or play a little bit of cash poker in the same room just to get comfortable with the chips, the ambience, the kind of player that's around, maybe some of the etiquette. Really, really good advice that, so that you're not just putting everything on this one big event, this one big opportunity. So do a bit of preparation. Now, here's the killer thing I want you to take from this video if you take nothing else. You can only play poker against the people on your table, right? So the people in front of you are what matter. It doesn't matter if you're in a tournament with 30 players or if you're in a tournament with 10,000 players. You can still only win chips off the people that are going to be in hands of poker with you, right? Which is usually the 8 players in front of you, sometimes 9 in front of you, sometimes less. And this is true whether you're playing a big online event, a big cash game, a big live event. You can only win chips off the players at your table. And I think having that in your head is incredibly helpful. Really, the tournament is a bit of a mirage, because it's not like a running race where you can go, oh, I'm currently in 300th. I want to make my move and get up to 100th. It doesn't work like that, right? I hope you enjoyed my running. You can only win chips off the players at your table. So if you really want to get into the state where you play good poker, forget about the event once you sat down and focus like a laser beam on each of those opponents in front of you. That will help you get over your nerves if you just think, I'm just playing poker against these players. My mission is to figure out how they play and to take chips off them. I like to do a table report, as I call it, after about 20 minutes. When I've been sitting down in any live game, I do this cash tournament, it's just an old habit. And that is where I go around the table after 20 minutes in my head. If you say it out loud, it gives it away. And summarize what I know about that player, what I've learned so far, to make sure I'm focused on my opponents. Really good thing to try and do. But don't worry about the big tournament. Worry about the players in front of you. All right, get comfortable. Get comfortable. So I don't just mean get comfortable on your seat, although that's nice if you're in a new place. You know, get to know the waitress, always a pleasure. Get a beverage. Get comfortable. I mean get comfortable in the game. You can't really win a poker tournament in the first half an hour, but you can lose it, right? Now, I'm not saying don't play any hands, but it probably is a good idea to avoid marginal situations, right? Fold that 8-7 suited in the first round if you're feeling a bit nervous, because it doesn't really make too much difference whether you make it or whether you play it or not, right? Then the flop comes 8-8-7 and you hate me, I'm sorry. But you know what I mean? Don't make marginal decisions. If you're unsure where you are in a hand because you haven't played with someone before, keep the pot a little bit smaller. I will allow you to play conservatively in the first level of the tournament because you can't lose that much. Now, if you feel good, that's fine. Go to war. If there's weak players at your table and you've got a good read on them, get in there and try and make some chips. But make sure you're comfortable in the game, because people make big mistakes when they're nervous and you don't want to kind of just give away your tournament. Getting comfortable should be linked inextricably with the next thing, which is to get information. It's very easy to get excited at the beginning of a big event, especially if it's a bigger event than you've played before. This also links to number 3 as well. Your mission is to get information on your opponents. It frustrates me a lot. I don't know why. probably from when I was a commentator and a lot more and stuff. But when I see players, even at my table, that aren't paying attention, even though I should like it, I sort of think, why aren't you paying attention? You're going to get information on your opponents from the very first hand. Now, if you're playing a live event as opposed to online, you can actually get information before the very first hand by talking to them or just by listening. You'll find out if they're a regular player, a professional player. You'll find out how much this tournament means to them. Did they buy in? Is it a lot of money to them? Maybe they're going to be playing defensively. Did they satellite in? Is this a big opportunity for them? Is this just another tournament? Are they bored? Are they sleepy? Are they in a losing run? All of that stuff can help you before a hand is dealt. And when a hand is dealt, yes, I know the early stages can be a little bit boring, especially live, because the blinds are so small and not much sometimes happens. But you're going to get information about how people play poker. Now, that information is going to change over the course of the day, especially as the blinds go up, but you're still going to learn about your opponents. Critical, make sure you watch hands you're not involved in, right? And especially hands that go to showdown. You should want to know what everybody's played when they get to showdown. You shouldn't be like wandering off, looking at your phone or your iPad or the waitress or whatever. You should be focused on what they turn over, because it's going to tell you about how they view poker, how aggressive they are, the kind of range of hands they're playing. When they value bet, do they value bet big? You may even pick up some physical tells if it's a live event. But all of this stuff not only can make you more comfortable in the game, but it can get you information you can use later. Remember, it doesn't matter if you're playing your first World Series of Poker event or a tournament down your local casino. If you want to do well, get information that you can use later on. Get locked in from that first hand. And all of this advice is intended to get you zoned into the poker and forgetting about your nerves or the big occasion or anything else like that. Last piece of advice, treat each hand separately. Each hand separately. So this is kind of good advice for poker anyway. Because when you get a poker hand, it doesn't know whether you're tilting, winning, losing, what happened in the last hand, whether someone just got lucky against you. It doesn't know, right? So it's good advice anyway to try and focus on each hand and view it as its own problem. When you're in a big tournament, bigger than you've ever played in before, or it's a big occasion, or the pressure's on because you've moved up the stakes, then it's much easier to take baggage into a poker hand. Maybe it's not going how you wanted. Maybe you're halfway through the first day and you've lost half your stack and you're feeling a bit tilty, right? A surefire way to get rid of the rest of those chips is to bring all of that emotion of, oh, this was my big one, this is my opportunity, and it's not working. Instead, as much as you ever can, and maybe write this down to look at during the day, focus on each hand separately. Remember, it doesn't know. The chips and the cards don't know who's playing them or how, right? Focus on your opponents and focus on your hand and how your hand plays best in that situation. Every hand is a separate situation. Use what you've learned about your opponents because you've been paying attention and focus on that. Don't worry about how the tournament's going. That will take care of itself, and any situation can be turned around. The number of times I've done it myself, but also commentated or seen people come back from 1 or 2 big blinds to reach the final table of a tournament. You should never ever give up. Keep your focus. And if you just go out and play your best poker, remembering you can't magically become a better poker player overnight, you never know what can happen. You can have a moneymaker style event where your first big tournament you end up winning or final tabling or cashing, but you've got to give yourself the best chance you can to do well. And you do that by just focusing on the poker. Easier said than done, but I wish you well if you're playing a big event soon. If you're not, try and satellite into one. It's a really good way to progress your poker because you'll tangle with better players, and that's how we get better. All right, this has been fun to make. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you play a big event or move up in cash stakes and how it goes. Do feel free to leave your comment and ask a question below the video. Give it a Facebook like so that I know you've liked it, but also so that it gets shared with your poker friends or any other kind of social media share to get the message out there. Like I said, it's been fun to make this one. I'll see you in another video very soon.